Hi, everybody. Rick DiClemente with you with Astrology Unplugged. Welcome aboard. Tonight we have a lot of things going on, an awful lot. And I bet you can feel it in the air. The planets are really stirring in many ways. I have a lot of subjects tonight. First thing I wanted to tell you before I forgot is several people have asked me about astrology programs. And if you have a computer and you don't want to mess around too much, but you want to do a few charts here and there, you don't want to pay $350 for Solar Fire, you can go to Solar Fire's website, which is ALABE, ALABE, which stands for Astrolabe, ALABE.com, and you can get a product called Celeste for free. And I run it all the time on my phone. It'll run on either type of phone. It's free. It allows you to do two charts, the one you're looking at and then another one. You can't store anything, but it does a simple chart. It has a chart of the day. It's very nice and it's free. I use it all the time for just quick charts. I want to see something fast. Also, go to Google, and it's only about $25, $30. It's much more sophisticated. Is a program called Astro Gold. Astro Gold. And I bought it for like $25, and it's a much better chart than the Celeste, and you can store hundreds of charts. You can even put two charts together. So that's not bad for $30. Other than that, your best bet is to go to astro.com, which probably a lot of you already do. And on astro.com, which is on the web, it's a major, big astrology site. You can get a subscription there. It doesn't cost anything. You can get a file there, store your images there, progress charts, do harmonics, all kind of stuff there, short of buying your own software. So it's a good one. Next, second thing, there's a lot going on right now. I can just tell you, I've had some outrageous clients recently, and I've also heard some outrageous stories that aren't that good. Kind of frightening. Anyhow, what I think is happening, besides the fact that Saturn and Uranus are squaring each other, okay? I think what's happening, and I don't know why these astrologers won't put Eris on their chart, because it's just Arisian everywhere, but they're going to. But I think what's happening is this. The river is either pushing you downstream or it's pushing you under. And I don't think a lot of people are just treading water. Now look around and see for yourself, but a lot of people are really going with it. And I'm telling people, go, it's really positive. Go, green light, green light. You've heard me for months now. That's generally true. And I think some people who are so embedded into hanging on are getting beat up pretty good. Now, I'm not going to make any predictions, but I do think the time is really outrageous for people right now. People are still coming in. Now, I've actually got 2 pages of notes. Me. Oh my God. Okay. Now, the next thing I wanted to tell you about, I want to show you a quick little short snippet of a video from YouTube of a woman named Dolores Cannon. She's been around a long time. She's a psychic teacher. She writes a lot of books. She's shockingly accurate. And I was listening to her the other day, and when I listened to this snippet, that's what gave me this show. All the ideas from that snippet brought about these ideas you're going to hear tonight. And tonight I'll be covering 2 major topics. So we're going to go listen to Dolores for just a second here. Let's see here. All right. Dolores. Let me get this working for you. Hello, John. Okay, we're going to share the screen. And we got it right there. And we'll feed her right there.
If it were to wink out for a fraction of a second, everything would disintegrate. That's how powerful this is. And I've went into a lot of this in my books, the different versions of the dreamer dreams a dream, life is an illusion. One concept I like to bring up that may shake you up a little. This building, this room didn't even exist until you collectively decided to be here today.
There's your story. There's your story. This is what tonight's about. This building and this room did not even exist until we came together collectively and agreed on this. Now, I told you in the preview, that's all I'm playing from her. I'm going to talk about LSD and psilocybin and all that. And since then, I've had all kind of input from people. And I'm not going to talk about the medicinal purposes of it. I'm not talking about promoting doing it. I'm talking about how it opened me up at one time to see oneness. And whether you like it or not, tonight's second half is going to be about the experience that Liza and I went through in January 2011 when we realized that we were in a new stage of quantum physics. And I felt it physically first. 2011, during the eclipse. But first of all, before we get to that, all right, let's go back in time. I'm 20 years old. 150 years ago, I'm doing LSD, and I've done psilocybin, and I've done a couple different things. And I asked my parents if I can paint. I'm like any old loyal male teenager living in my parents' basement, right? So I say, can I paint the basement? And they say, of course. And of course, I chose black, which went over real well. So I painted the basement black. It's my basement. And I put up a net, and it was hippie times. And I put up, I got orange paint out, psychedelic paint I'm painting on the walls and stuff. And I remember having the word real big, prime, across the wall. I don't know what that was about. But anyhow, I'm grooving in this basement, right? All right, the point is this. I'm not advocating the use of LSD or any drugs, but I'm going to tell you what happened. I had some friends over, and we are experiencing LSD together. And one of the dried brushes, I picked up one of the dried paint brushes, and it had orange Dayglow paint on the end. So we're just goofing around, of course. This is really important. And during the evening, I would take that brush and I'd go, whap. If you were joking on me, I'd just go, whap. And that orange brush, the orange dots would go, whap, 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 whap. I'd go, and you go, whap, 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 boom. And it's goofy and we're all hallucinating, of course. And it's called recreational use. Liza's over there snickering. Okay, but the question I had was, how did 5 of us just see that dot hit Rick's nose? Why didn't 3 of us see it hit the forehead and 2 of us hit the mouth? And it's real easy to toss this question aside and ignore it. But no, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. I go whap and hit you in the shoulder, and everybody sees it hit you in the shoulder. How's that possible? So I lived with that for several years. I lived with that, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. How can we all see it? We're not talking about it. He didn't say hit him in the shoulder, and I did. I just go whap, and it would hit somebody in the eyebrow. We'd all see it.
Remind me it was a dry brush.
She said to remind you it was a dry brush. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It was a dry brush. It wasn't wet. It was dry. So this is phenomenal, right? Okay, so fast forward a couple years, and I'm on a little island between, outside of Whaling, there's a little island between West Virginia and Ohio. It's not populated, a little tiny island. My friends and I rode a boat across. We're taking LSD, and we're camping out all night on the opposite side of the island facing Ohio. And we're only a couple hundred yards from the hillside, and you can just see trees everywhere. And I'm real serious about this tonight, okay? I'm not talking about go take it. I'm talking about what does this mean? So it's about 5 o'clock in the morning. It's starting to get light out. 3 of us are sitting in the sand looking across to Ohio. We're not talking about anything. Instantly, hundreds of thousands of oranges go whoop. The whole entire hillside. Hundreds, millions, maybe millions, hundreds of thousands of oranges go beep, and bloomed. And we all looked at each other. Did you see that? Yeah, I saw it. Did you see that? Yeah, I saw that. Okay, so what's going on here? This is very similar to the paintbrush. No one's talking about oranges. No one's saying ready, set, go. It just happened. Okay, so the fact is we all saw these oranges at the same time, and it's human nature to suppress this stuff, just like with deja vu. But I kept the door open because I'm saying this is a clue to me about oneness. There's something going on here. So, of course, I don't know, and I'm going along, and I quit using dull drugs. I quit using LSD in 1973. By 1978, I go to hear Ram Dass speaking at West Virginia University. So I go to see him because I love him, and I've read his books, and he's had a bigger impact on me than anybody on the planet, I think. So I get the courage when the speech is over to question and answer. I'll take that microphone. So I'm reading all these books about you create your own universe. So I'm really upset about this because there's something missing from the instruction manual here. So I said, Ram Dass, listen to me, please. Bear with me. I'm with my friend, hypothetical situation. Say it's Liza. I'm walking down the street with Liza, and we see a house we've never been to. And I say, wait right here. And I go in that house, I've never been there before, and I turn to my left, and I see a yellow broom. And I write down on my pad, yellow broom on the left. And I don't say anything to anybody. And I come back out, and she goes in. And she comes back, and she turns left, and she sees a yellow broom too. Okay, so now we're talking because I want to know what the mechanics of this is because we either won or we ain't. Okay? Ram Dass says to me, yeah, that's right. I go, oh, God, I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right now. What does it mean? He says, you're right. There's one collective mind. So stupid me, I go, yeah, real polite, and I say, thank you, pass the microphone, instead of saying, give me a second question. How come? What's going on here? But I didn't ask. So I left that situation. I went on for more years. So I'm remembering the paintbrush, I'm remembering the oranges, and I'm remembering what Ram Dass says, and I'm going through the years and years and years, and I can't figure this out, and I'm starting to get and I'm reading all about it. About all these cosmic experiences people have. You've all read these things. And one day I happened upon a concert. I don't even remember where. I'm going to a symphony. And during the symphony, they're playing beautifully and everybody's really quiet. And they're playing real quietly, and there's no Rick there, and there's no John there, there's no Bill there, there's no violinist there. It's just the symphony is happening. You've all read enough Zen stuff, enough Buddhist stuff to talk about that. It's just it's isness. So I realized, that was the moment I realized what oneness was about. Because as long as nobody was in that room thinking, I'm the conductor, I'm the flute player, hey, I'm watching here and I'm from this school, and nobody's getting hung up on their backgrounds and their histories, which is what all the books tell us, there's nothing but one mind in that room. And it all clicked. So it took me about 8 years to figure out what was going on. Now, that doesn't mean I got this thing whooped. I mean, it's still a hard concept. So that leads to tonight. And what we're going to talk about tonight is this thought of oneness, because I'm not trying to get you to take LSD. I'm not advocating anything, but I'm saying to you, and I'm getting into this later, we are into a new quantum age. And you, especially you, are going to get hit with this way before the regular folks do. We're all getting hit with it because that's what's happening. And if you can't figure it out, look around you. The quantum world is like, get with it. It's like the ship to get on or you're going down, because look at what's happening to the planet. Huh? In the quantum world, what did Dolores say? Unless you see, what did quantum physics prove? It does not exist until you see it. Huh? We think it's the other way around, huh? It doesn't exist until you see it, which says an awful lot about what are you doing when you see something, i.e. you're creating it. Okay, so I walk around and I'm looking in the room. I got lamps and I got a fan, and Liza's sitting there, and there's a chair here and there's a TV here. So Ramdas is telling me that at this moment, she and I are creating everything in this room. Okay, now this is the reason I'm bringing it up is it's really hard to understand. It's really hard to believe, but you better start putting it in your hopper and chewing on it, because everything is going to become based on this. It's on its way now. It's happening. Now, what did you have to say? You told me a sentence or two this morning that you wanted to offer. Go ahead.
From here?
From over here, anywhere you please. Liza had something that she ran into that she felt fit right in, and please add to it. Just get it over where the camera can see.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
There's Liza's face.
Hi, everybody. Well, Rick and I have really been kind of immersed in understanding the whole idea of oneness, and how we're part of that oneness in terms of both space and time, and maybe he'll talk to you about that another time. But one of the times that it really hit me that it was true was I was reading. I know Rick has talked to you about Richard Tarnas before in astrology, but I was reading his book that was published in 2006, and he was talking about consciousness and as a basis for going on and talking about astrology and how and why that works, which is all part of the oneness of the universe. And he was talking about how in the early days of humanity, like going back to the times when there were cave paintings and shamans were very prevalent and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
that human consciousness was so much more permeable, and human beings, on the basis of the archaeology and the things that have been discovered, the art and everything from people of that era, people were so much more in touch with everything around them, with the world, with not only the stars, but the weather and other beings around them. And he made the statement that I think it was him that said this, but it really rocked me. He said, when that hunter was making a painting of an animal in the cave, or when the shaman was doing the shaman's thing, they were not just evoking or calling to that animal, they became that animal. And I just thought, oh my, that was just so
exactly
profound
right.
to me. It just gave me chills to think
Yeah.
about that and how far away from all of that we are now, and that we need to build upon the consciousness that we've developed through all these millions of years of evolution, and at the same time bring back that state of consciousness, so we're part of, we're truly feeling not separate from the world and the universe, but we're truly engaging a big part of that. And maybe when later Rick will let me read a final quotation, and some of you probably heard that, but something that T.S. Eliot said that pertains. So that's all I wanted to say right now.
Well, thank you very much. That's excellent, excellent. And it just shows you, it shows all of us that what have we done to get separate from nature? What has it done to us? And we all know the answer. We're not sure how to turn it around. And surely you're going to hear more about the quantum age. That's what tonight is about. Now I'm going to go into some side beat issues about that, which very much advocate and support what she just said to you. And then I'm going to spend the rest of the night talking about an experience I had in January 2011, and you all had it too, where quantum mechanics became a kitchen word, an everyday word. Okay? And I'm going to show you how. And I remember the second it happened. Now, if you're going to write notes to me, realize I'm not going to read them until the show is over because I don't have the time. I'm sorry. Now, do you ever hear people talk about being in the zone? About like a skier who comes down off the mountain of the super slalom and he's just flying, trying to stay alive. He gets to the bottom of the hill and they stick a microphone in his face. How you feeling? Well, there's not even an eye there. I don't know. The guy's saying, I'm one with the hill. I'm one with the hill. These things are specific. They're not metaphors. You hear it in all sports. I was in the zone. People trying to get in the zone. You know how bad that is. You're either in the zone or you're not. You can't try to get into it. And boy, that's an awful experience. And it reminded me of several things before I get into the quantum stuff here. The phrase, it just came to me. I was watching a Dylan interview earlier, talking about how he wrote all those early songs. And he sat there, and he went, I don't know. That's such a beautiful answer. He doesn't know. Where'd it come from? I don't know. It comes from the wellspring where all things come from. It comes from the oneness. Anyhow, you keep seeing the same thing that the Bible says about you must die before you can be reborn. Except we take it literally and get to go be born again. It's not what it means at all. It's what Castaneda talks about, learning to see. Learning to see. What you think is there is not what's there. Because if you can see according to the masters tell us you see nothing but oneness. The people that have near-death experiences go instantly into this world of super bliss and love that within seconds, they don't want to come back. So these states of consciousness are all around us. Astrology is only one mini state that points to a sub-layer of it. But with Pluto and Aristotle, what they're doing now, I think it's being expedited somehow. And it's appropriate tonight that we give this more thought. Now, some people I've heard about Course in Miracles students, it's even in their text, that one of the stages they go through as they're becoming enlightened, one of the stages they go through is they start to see outlines around objects. You see this, and I'm sure Susan's shaking her head as a medium. You're starting to see reality. You're starting to see the real reality behind this reality. And one of the ways it does is the reality that you're used to seeing starts to break down. Or the agreement that you're making with the collective starts to break down. So this is heavy stuff. I don't pretend I understand it, but I think it's definitely stuff that we all need to give more thought to. A couple more things here. One of the main things I think about this when I read and read and read and read, what do you hear about? Judgment and forgiveness. Over and over and over and over and over. And here's the problem. We were taught that judgment is bad. Thou shalt not judge. So it's a bad thing to start judging. Oh, I just judged. Beat me up. That's not the story. What Jesus is saying, I think, is when you judge, you're wrong. Automatically. Whenever you judge, you're just wrong. So you are not seeing. So you're not seeing what's there. So when you read about the advanced spirits, the advanced masters, they're all very non-judgmental, and they're all talking about seeing, and they're all talking about they don't want to pollute it with judgment. So it's a very fascinating how the whole thing starts to click together. Now we're going to get to the story. So years ago, this was 10 years ago, Liza and I were living in a different place. And we had just put out, by the way, the Exquisite Zodiac. And by the way, you wrote an article in the spring of 2011, and your name was Cheryl Christ. So we know Liza Jane Brown was born after that. Okay. So I'm walking through this house, and the news is on for a couple of days about the eclipse that happened on January 4th of 2011. There's this super eclipse, I think it's in Pisces, and everybody's losing their mind. And it's going on, and everybody's losing their mind. And all of a sudden, this Professor Markle, who's a professor of a community college in Minnesota, is on the air talking, and he's telling everybody that astrologers are full of it. And this thing's mushrooming on over the world, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But we're not our sun sign anymore. There's a 13th sign. How did that happen? Real astrology doesn't work. There's 2 zodiacs. The other one's not working. We have this chaos all over the place. And you know when it's chaos, it's got to be one planet. Uranus. So we know Uranus is involved. I don't know what's happening, but I've heard these stories before. And it went nuts. It went all over the planet, this story. People were, I got to get my tattoo taken off. I'm not a Scorpio, I'm a Sag. What am I going to do? And I got a medallion here, and all this stuff. And I'm saying to myself, people are calling me, my phone's going crazy because they think I know. And what happened at that time, I wrote a long article about this, explaining it. And you can look up that article if you would like to and read it for yourself. It is at, here it is. Okay, it is at starself.com. NL, all underscore. It's all small letters. starself.com/NL for newsletter _archive. NL_archive /newsletter 61. Newsletter 61. Okay, and we wrote an article, the two of us, in that electronic magazine called The Puncture of the Collective. And that's what happened that day. Now follow me now. NL_archive /newsletter 61.html. So that'll take you right to the article. You can print it out and read it. Okay, so what happened was I'm realizing I got to do something about this. Not because everybody's calling me, but something's happening. Something's happening because all over the world, on the nightly news everywhere, they're worried about a 13th sign. They're worried about Ophiuchus, this 13th sign. They're wondering what happened to the traditional zodiac. Why are there 2 zodiacs? Why are there 13 signs? Well, what happened was people got all this stuff mixed up. Well, what do you get things mixed up? That's a Jupiter type of thing. It's a Uranian type of thing. Things just got mixed up, and they mixed up the apples and the oranges. And they got this guy thinking he's a scientific expert to talk about all this. And he got on, he spread all kind of disinformation. It went all over the planet. This was 10 years ago. So I'm walking through the house. It's January 11th. It's 1 week later after the eclipse. I'm walking through the house, and honest to God, I'm walking, and all of a sudden, boom, something just knocked me over. I didn't fall to the ground, but it just knocked me over like a strong wind in the house. And I'm saying, something's going on here. So I start giving some thought here. Okay, it's 2011. We know that what's happening now is Uranian. Okay? Something's Uranian is happening. Now remember, I'm still trying to figure this out. Let me get this on your screen. Okay, here's the planets that day. Here's the eclipse on January 4th, 2011. Jupiter and Uranus were exactly together during the eclipse. Exactly together around that time, close enough. Jupiter and Uranus, okay, in the sign of Pisces. All right. So I said to myself, I wonder what happened 84 years ago. Because if you go back 84 years, Uranus is here, and Uranus is now back the same spot. And when you get knocked over, that's a Uranus return, which you can just imagine what the hell Pluto return does. So I go back to 1927, and what do I find? There was a conference called the Solvay Conference in Brussels, Belgium, where these people happened to attend. Einstein, Schrödinger, Madame Curie, Heisenberg, Dirac, Max Planck, Bohr, all the great physicists of the day. This was the second Solvay Conference, named after a famous physicist. This is the second one. 28 years earlier, there was one. This is 28 years later. So these people are meeting to discuss the validity of quantum mechanics. Now, in 1911, it had been introduced into modern physics. Einstein is sitting here in the middle. He couldn't stand the idea because he said God didn't play dice. Okay, here's Madame Curie sitting here, the only female. Okay, so these famous physicists are all there, and what do? They take several days, and all they do is discuss about quantum mechanics. Okay, so here's what I realized. This is 84 years later. And look at this diagram. Look at this. This is real astrology. Okay? Or you can tinker around with Venus if you want to. This is real astrology. Watch this here. All right. This is where the planets were in 2000 on October 27th in 1927. It's exactly 84 years later, but not to the day. Okay, Jupiter and Uranus were together at this spot. Now, not only does Uranus come back around 84 years later, but Jupiter's with it. And remember, Jupiter works in 12ths every 12 years. 12, 24, etc. adds up to 84. So what we're having is a return of Uranus and Jupiter on top of the original Uranus and Jupiter. And then I had it. What happened is we shifted from one octave of quantum mechanics to another. January 4th, 2011, we all shifted to a higher level of quantum mechanics knowledge, consciousness. So I wrote to Richard Tarnas. He's the genius behind Cosmos and Psyche. I said, look, you got to see this here. He says, I'm aware of it. I said, Richard, this is a major symbol that the last 10 years we're all becoming more quantum. We're talking about it more. We're seeing it in art. We're seeing it in everything, in the way humans move, the way humans think, the way philosophy is unfolding, etc. He says to me, well, yeah, I was aware of it, he said, but I don't think that it means that much. Well, I beg to differ, and I don't like to differ with Mr. Tarnas, but I have to ask you that since 2011, the quantum world has just been much more talked about. So what I discerned finally is that since Jupiter's involved, Jupiter's the social planet. It spreads information through society. So what you saw is that in 1927, it was birthed. It came into human consciousness, but only the mathematicians and the physicists. It wasn't in their everyday language. And 84 years later, in 2011, Jupiter spread it out through the public. It was now to become an everyday occurrence. That's what happened in 2011. And that's why ever since then, we've had the quantum world with us. And their main finding if you don't see it, it's not there. Well, that really shakes you up, because then it makes you wonder who and what you are. So that's kind of the end of my discussion, in a sense, because, yeah, that's right. Newsletter 61, that's correct. Because the panic brought us into mislabeling what was happening, that Ophiuchus, which is a 13th constellation, and it keeps trying to get itself involved with the 12, but it's not going to get into the 12, because the reason the 12 signs of the zodiac is 4 times 3. 4 times 3. 4 modes, 3 elements. You get 12 signs, 30 degrees each. And it just does not work at all otherwise. Then people got confused about the 2 different zodiacs. There's an astronomical zodiac, there's an astrological one. That's what gives us the ages. We know that they're different. Then there were people talking about, other factors I can't remember. They got it all confused, yes.
Quantum physics validates that things happen in synchronous ways, which validates astrology.
Yeah, exactly. Quantum is so astrological. She said that quantum validates that things happen at the right time. And it can't happen till that time, right?
That things like a planet in a certain position correlates with what's happening on Earth.
Right.
Like scientists have proven that things that are not physically connected and they're light years apart from each other can happen synchronously.
They happen synchronously, and distance doesn't matter.
Right.
Okay, which is what we're seeing when we heal somebody with the healing. Doesn't matter how far away they are, because there is no distance. So the whole evening is to just show you how the quantum world is becoming central, and it needs to be central. And it comes at the perfect time, because we all see what's happening to the geocentric Earth that we've been living in so far, how it just doesn't work, and how we listen to the American Indian. And American Indians always trying to tell us from the get-go to be more close to spirit, what she was talking about, becoming one with your spirit animal, whatever it is. What we're finding out is modern day backward religion doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's just erroneous. It's based upon a wonderful principle, which Christ talked about, loving each other, being one. Now we're starting to get the physical with it. So that's the end of that part for the evening. I just wanted to mention to you, because you may want to read the article, because it explains in detail what happened when you added 84 years to the 1927, and you saw Uranus and Jupiter come back to the same spot. It wasn't precise, but it was close enough. That's what rocked the boat. That's what gave people all these faulty ideas, because they didn't have any framework with which to classify it and to understand it. There aren't any well-known astrologers. Not anymore, not since JFK or Nancy Reagan, God forbid. Well-known astrologers. There needs to be astrology taught in all 12 grades, real astrology. So I encourage you to go to starself.com/NL_NL for newsletter, NL_archive/newsletter61.html, and you'll see that article, which is called The Puncture of the Collective. Now, what I thought I would do, and I think I'll just turn to it now since the timing is right. I told Marcia I was going to get into it. I want to take this time to look at people's charts. So I think what I'm going to do is look at Marcia's chart and talk about what she's doing with homeopathy. Just give me a moment here. Okay, now Marcia and I have been friends, nearly 50 years. And we've had her chart done before, but the reason is that okay, Marcia? Okay, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. Okay. The reason I want to get into this is Marcia's been talking with me. She said, oh, I'd like to take an astrology class. She's really getting geared up to take an astrology class. And out of nowhere, she gets blown off course. And all of a sudden, she's going to take this homeopathy course. Okay, so the wind doesn't just come out of nowhere. Something is more appropriate for her to do with homeopathy. It just so happens while she's doing that, she's taking this course on Thursday nights. So she's learning astrology at her own rate while she's massively getting into homeopathy. So I just want to show you, and I don't even know much about this. I'm just show you how it works. When a great big wind comes across your chart, and you just get into homeopathy, which is requiring you to study how much?
A lot.
What does that mean, a lot?
This afternoon I studied 3.5 hours.
Okay, but I'm saying how many books, how many hours, how many videos?
I have 36 books. I have, I don't know how many hours a week, probably 20 hours.
Okay, so
and I should be doubled that, I'll tell you the truth.
The point is when something like this happens to you, it's not, oh, I think I'll try that. It's not that simple. It has to connect to your past lives. It has to connect to your 12th harmonic. It has to connect to your 6th harmonic, especially your 6th. See, I don't talk a lot about the 6th. The 6th harmonic is the second one I use almost as much as the 12th. It has to do with your destiny, with your hero's journey, what your purpose is, why you're here. So I knew if I looked at, I told you 2 days ago that I would look at your chart. Let me look at your natal chart. I'll look at your 12th harmonic. I'll look at your 6th. Okay, so what is homeopathy? Give me a 5-sentence definition of what it really is.
Homeopathy is a science of medicine that incorporates remedies that are potentized to different strengths. They're vibrational. There's no physical part of the medicine. They're non-toxic. They can be used with other allopathic medications, but they're extremely fragile, but extremely energizing. And you have to use them in a balanced way.
My God, how do you like that word? Items that are potentized. Whoo! I don't know what that is, but I want one. I want something that's potentized. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Wonderful definition.
I mean, we're studying some things right now about COVID-19 being potentized and being used in India. It's a real big thing that's recently started and is continuing on.
All right, now let's continue. We're going to start to see when brought this way for Marshall. Why? And the answer is that she's been a homeopathist. Is that right? Homeopath for a long time. Only she may have called it a shaman, and she may have called it something else, and it's being revived. Okay? Let's see how it comes out astrologically, because that's what the job is all about here. So let's go through the natal chart. And remember, we're only born 2 days apart. All right, let's see here. I'm trying to get all my charts in a row. Okay. All right, here's the sun in Capricorn at 7 degrees. The eclipse we just had was at 19 of Sag. Okay, so it's in this area. This doesn't come about from an eclipse. Eclipses are momentary. They'll last several days, several weeks. We're seeing a major transit causing this. All right, let's keep looking. She's got the Mars, Neptune, Saturn stellium. She's got Pluto high in the sky in Leo. The sun is opposite Uranus. And when the sun is opposite Uranus, that automatically withdraws your card from the Capricorn club and it enlists you in the Aquarian club. While I'm taking a look at that, did you want me to respond to your hand, John?
I'll unmute myself. Before we got to the chart, what you were saying, Rick, is one of the most powerful things I have ever heard.
What?
About the oneness. And here's my thought. You know, the ants, the way they are, and the way everything is one, the synchronicity, that's God.
Of course it is.
It's God, and that's the planets. It's everything. That's God. That's so powerful.
Okay, that's exactly right, yes.
We are one because of that. And there's no language for this.
That's exactly right. Okay, I'm trying to get I'm getting all kind of messed up screen stuff here because Mercury's still retrograde and I'm trying to get back to the...
Yeah, you know, I'm a mystic and that's what I see.
What's that?
I'm a mystic, as you know that.
I know, you need to speak up for me, please. Yeah, you're a mystic, and I think everybody's sitting here as a mystic in some fashion. Right. Okay, let me get back to her chart now.
Major synchronicity is God, the whole oneness.
It's all exactly right. Okay, so we look in her chart, and we see this is why she's not a standard Capricorn, is the Uranus opposition, just like I have, okay? And that gives her the Capricorn and the Aquarius. Also, she's what? What's the healing planet? Chiron. Chiron is 2 degrees away from her sun. She's been a professional masseuse for many years, and now she's going off into homeopathy. The moon is in Aquarius. No better place for the moon to be for somebody to study something like this. All the homeopaths I've seen have all had major Aquarius in them. It's just what I've seen. Okay, so I'm looking at this chart and I'm saying, what this has gone on 2 years for you now?
Oh, it's been a lot longer than that I've been, I mean, since the late 80s when I started using homeopathy, but studying it seriously.
Yeah, studying seriously.
10 months, really, seriously.
Okay, the last year. All right, so what do we know we got to see something happen. We're not going to go back to college days and all that, but we want to see what's happening. Well, what do you see? 21 degrees cardinal. Okay. This cardinal was too early, but you're seeing this Mars Neptune is 19 and 21, which means that just recently Pluto has been at 21, 22, 23, now at 24. It's been squaring these two planets. That's what brought about the initial surge. But what I found in your chart, it's not your birth chart that's showing this. So let's put this aside for a moment. let's go to your past life chart. Or here it is. This is your past life chart. This is what I call your spiritual transcript or your spiritual history. This is, in essence, what I found, what you've been like so for many lifetimes, what you've been like spiritually. All right. So this doesn't talk really very much about the earth plane, but let's take a look at this. You got Venus really high in the sky in Aquarius. Okay. That's your most angular planet. That's all about being really open and helping your brothers and sisters in the world. Fellowship. Okay, you've got this very, very powerful Pluto, Neptune, the two most powerful planets there are, opposite Eris. Okay, you don't just idly come and stumble across Pluto, Neptune, opposite Eris unless the psyche can handle it. This is somebody who is, and this is almost the basis, this is the basis of your T-square. This is the basis. This is the reason you're a homeopath. Because these two planets are all about, like, what do you see in Einstein's chart? You see Pluto and Taurus, was it? The elements, breaking the elements apart, Pluto and Taurus, breaking them apart, discovering fission. Okay, we see in Marcia, Pluto and Neptune, opposite Eris. Talk about a powerhouse. Now, that not only means that you're powerfully interested, that means that the universe, the collective, has chosen you to be involved in this because you're right for it. Now, see, that's why I wanted to do all this at one time. This all falls in place with the quantum discussion that we had and the discussion about the oneness and the orchestra and the non-individuality and the end of duality. All right, let's go on further here. Let's go back to the sixth harmonic. All right. Remember, this chart represents your destiny. Where are you going? What's calling you? And right now, where is Saturn? Saturn is right up about here. Saturn's right about here. Where was it a year ago? About right there. Saturn's nearing the top of the chart. Since I can't see anything because my chart's messed up. Anyhow, Saturn's near the top of the chart. Saturn's not enough to cause all this. It's not strong enough. Okay, you've got a major, major T-square. Pluto, Neptune, opposite Eris, 22, 14, 18, over to Saturn in Virgo. What is Saturn and Virgo all about? It's about this. Well, I'm going to show you all these far out ideas, and I'm going to show you all these cosmic ideas and these quantum ideas, but you are here to put it in a package. You're here to measure it, tell people what it's good for. Don't take this, take 3 of these, take 1 of those, itemize it. That's the Saturn and Virgo, learning the skills. All this power behind it, but you're being forced to funnel it through Saturn and Virgo, which is very discreet, it's very itemized, it's very trained, it's exact proportions. So it doesn't surprise me at all, and I didn't even know that. It doesn't surprise me to hear that it's all very exacting science. You got to take exactly this. Okay, so you got this tremendous power coming through a planet that's not a good outlet. When T-squares go to Saturn, Saturn is not a good safety valve. And T-squares should be through Mars. It should be through Mercury. It should be the moon. It should be through something expressive so it can express that energy, but it's going to Saturn. Okay, so you've got this phenomenal power, but you've got this really big weight on top of you beside being a Capricorn. Use it rightly. Okay? Use it rightly. And being a Capricorn, being so dutiful and so responsible, you've already got that principle in you. And thank God you've got this other thing that you and I share. I'll show you what that is. The thing that I'm talking about, thank God you got it, is you've got Eris on Jupiter. My Eris and Jupiter, same degree. Yours is off a little bit because we're born 2 days apart. That Jupiter and Aries and Eris and Aries is just blow it out. Just blow it out. So what that means, Marsha, is when this heavy duty responsibility comes to you, there's a tendency to take it too seriously. And, oh, I missed that thing by 1 gram, or, but you got the right intention, but it's going through Jupiter and Eris. And Jupiter and Eris is just say the thing, will you? Just get it out. And I was thinking about you last night. You got this marvelous laugh. If people haven't known you, you'll get in the middle of something, and all of a sudden you'll just go, ha, 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 ha. This kind of blow it out, kind of expressive laugh that is a real release. And thank God you got this, because I don't know if you could just keep putting up with all this power being sent to that Saturn. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think it's really intriguing. Well, let's go back here. All right. Now we go back to the 6th harmonic, and we see, okay, the sun is opposite Eris, and it's going to Pluto, Neptune. And I was mixing it up. I'm sorry. I was mixing it up with your 12th harmonic. Your 12th harmonic has the T squared to Saturn. Okay? So that's what you have been doing all along. In your 6th harmonic, it's changed now. Forgive me. In your 6th harmonic, your sun is opposite Eris, and the T square there is going through Pluto and Neptune. So it looks to me, and I'm glad that I made the error because now I can revisit it. It looks to me like in your past lives, when everything was being sent to Saturn and Virgo, that was a real cross to bear. Always being forced to, always feeling wrong, always feeling like I didn't do it right, always feeling like you just got to get it exactly so. That was the past. So forgive me. Now when we look the 6th harmonic and we look in the natal chart, I think that's why your natal chart has the Jupiter next to Eris. Because I think you just get full up to here and it just goes poof, and it has a safety valve to release itself. So you don't get just inundated with duty and responsibility. Okay? Now remember, let's take a side trip for a second. What have I found with all this work with the harmonics? I found several major things. One, in our past life, most of us feel really guilty. This is from dealing with hundreds, thousands of clients. We feel guilty. We're not enough. We didn't do enough. We weren't kind enough. We weren't loving enough. We weren't open enough. We were Catholic, whatever. Okay? So what did we do? We took this lifetime by studying our past, and you said, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix that. A little bit of this. I'm going to turn that into this. And we came up with a formula, huh? This is what my observation is. Oh, I'm going to correct these things. Why? Because then I got a better chance of getting in the pearly gates. It's the only reason you do it. So it leads me to the final 2 things. What have I found after watching this and watching this and watching this? 1, we're all wrong. We didn't have to do any of this stuff. We didn't have to fix anything. There aren't any pearly gates. We're always in heaven. There is no hell. And 2, we don't have to change anything anyway, because we're already fine the way we are. So that's the difference that's happening in your church now. You're now studying this as a soul that's been around a long time, but it's happening now in a more relaxed fashion. Because if something happens wrong, it's not that big of a deal. Not like it used to be. Okay? Does that make any sense to you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
Now, how does that make sense to you?
Well, I do understand the duty, responsibility, Saturn-y part of it, because when I'm hearing the lectures, it's like I have to get each word right. And for watching the video, I stop and watch it 10 times to make sure I have the right word, whatever.
Yeah.
The doctor who's teaching the course is talking about, and he's brilliant, beyond brilliant. But I really like the aspect of, just blow it out. It's the kinesthetic part of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's connecting with people. It's connecting with the animal, because animals are treated too. So that's a beautiful part of it. Yeah.
And there's something to be said about the blowing it out.
Right.
Blowing it out is not just irresponsible, because what's doing the blow it out? There's creation behind it, John. There's creativity behind it. There's oneness behind it. You can't make a mistake. And one of the hard things I've had as an astrology teacher is get my students to start talking, because they don't want to talk because they're so afraid to be wrong. And it's really a paralyzing thing. But you can't be exactly right when you first start. So you have to start to mumble at least. Start, right, Claudia? Let's start to mumble. And you guys are getting really good, by the way. So you need to start talking, and you realize after a while that there are forces behind you that are supporting you, that your unconscious is much deeper than you ever thought. It's much more accurate than you ever thought. And look at your T-square. This is massive here. And we're going to start to see what launched all this. That's the 12th harmonic. Here's the 6th. Look at this T-square. That's the 4th. Here's 6. Okay. Sun, Eris, over to Neptune. Well, Neptune and Leo is a wonderful combination, because Neptune is wonderful for dispersing. It's dispersing. And Leo energy shaping it is really good, because people can feel from you that heart is behind it. Like if you were to make a mistake with a client, heart is behind it. They can sense that. Even with me making a mistake here, looking at your 12th instead of the 6th, you can sense that I'm trying, I'm working on it. I'm trying to dig down to the truth. So we look at the 6th and we see clearly Sun opposite Eris. Okay? What are you trying to do? What are you built to do? Sun opposite Eris. Okay, clearly your 12th harmonic said your past lives, the difficulty there was being a perfectionist or thinking you had to be. That's what it's about. So you take this lifetime to counter that. You're still somewhat a perfectionist, but you've got other parts in you that aren't that concerned about it, with that Jupiter Eris. And working on Broadway. Working on Broadway, it's a live entertainment. It's all about the dynamics of it, Makes a lot of sense to me. So we go back to the 6th harmonic. Okay, what do we see here? The moon is rising with Jupiter. The moon is rising with Jupiter and with Eris. This is really, really powerful. Very strong feelings, but it's very down to earth, and it's very guttural, and it's very essential. All right? So it's opposite the sun. This is you, the healer, Chiron and Scorpio, and the T-square is down here. Well, what has just happened in the past year? What has happened in the past year? Uranus has just crossed these planets. That's why I did it. And I will tell you what, no matter how long you've been studying, this revamping of yours happened suddenly.
It did.
It had to.
It did.
It always happens instantly. That's the day Uranus went into Taurus. And I believe it was May 27th of 2018. But anyhow, we can look that up. So Uranus has now gone into Taurus. It's here for 7 years. It's been in there about 3. It's about 12 or so right now. So it's gone back and forth, all of these. But when it went in, it knocked you for a loop because your moon's right on the border. So let's go back and find out. Let's go find out, when did Uranus go to 0 degrees of Taurus? because I can't remember all these dates. When did Uranus go to zero view? Uranus, let me put this on pause. Pause. So what we found out is May 15th of 2018. Now that is 3 years ago, but I will guarantee you it was like a Muhammad Ali punch came out of nowhere. And we experienced it inside like, oh, I don't know what happened. I'm just ready. Now Uranus is always what? Sudden, shocking, unpredictable, out of nowhere. And at that time, wasn't too far off. You were talking about taking astrology lessons. But you took a curveball instead. So what happened in May in the spring of 18?
This is unbelievable to me.
That's how it works.
My homeopath that had been treating me since 1988, who I really looked up to a lot, and she healed me so many times over the years. She died.
May 15th?
That's when I found out.
Oh, see?
She just died a few days before that.
Okay, now you want to talk about oneness now?
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about turning off Astrology Unplugged because you got something else to do?
And I remember it was the first time I'd been with Greg on your show. And Erica was right before me. And I knew I was next in line because you said the next like 3-4 people. And he was talking to Erica about this person and some of the things she's had experienced through her dying process. And Erica didn't recognize what it was. I knew exactly that it was Sylvia. And I was right after Erica. Erica may not remember this, but I do.
This is the woman that died?
Mm-hmm. And then Greg talked to me about someone who has helped you with herbs and that kind of thing. That's what he said, is that you're really healthy, you're fine. You've had a lot of help, health-wise. And she did, she helped me for 30 years. But I remember that Greg picked up on her.
What I think happened.
Right after Erica, he thought maybe it was Erica, but it was really me, but the energy was kind of together.
But what I think happened is she passed the torch. I see a lot in astrology. A mother passing the torch to the daughter. Now, Claudia, that's the kind of thing you will not see in symbols. You will pick it up intuitively. You'll feel it. I've had it happen many times. Passing the torch to the other. It just feels right. The timing is right. It just is right. And it's something the American Indians would have known. Mm-hmm. And they would have had a festival about. But not us goofs that are at a car show. Said lovingly. Mm-hmm. Erica, you're teaching, not me, right? Okay, so you can see, Marcia, how Uranus going into 0 degrees Taurus, about to hit your moon, which is in Taurus in the 6th harmonic, ignited it. And that's why it's not something new to you. You may have been involved in something similar. You may have been a shaman. You may have been a homeopath. I don't know. With Uranus involved, this is more likely. When Uranus hits us, we're more likely to put on a foil hat and try to invent something new. And when you're Sun Uranus, you're an inventor. Other people get renewed. And for instance, like John might retire and then go back into law school to help out legal issues to make sure they're more properly aligned with what people need. So some people go back to their industry. Some people go on and put on a foil hat. So it's very likely that you may end up working in a new field that's astro homeopathy. It's very likely, and there are plenty of them out there that are doing it. And astrology is definitely the number one thing you need if you're going to go into anything. Just go do it. So I think it's marvelous. So I'm going to tell you right now, we don't need to look at anything else. You're on a Uranian trip. That means it's exciting. That means it's all the Uranian things. It's sudden, it's exciting, it's unpredictable, it's maniacal, kind of crazy. You're meeting all kind of people younger than you. You're having all kind of online discussions. A lot of it's taking place online because it's Uranus. So you're meeting all the criteria.
It's all online.
Yeah.
Right now.
Sure. 30, 40 years ago, it wasn't. So it's a beautiful story, beautiful story. So what I'll do is I will thank all of the YouTubers, and we're going to sign off and we'll keep our little discussion here. Thank you, YouTubers, for joining us, and thanks for Kathy for joining us tonight. She's been a long-time YouTuber who's really in the skin and flesh tonight. I don't know what's next week. We'll wait and see, but thank you for joining us. And if you want to join in live like Kathy did, any Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, go to Google, put in Astrology Unplugged, and it will give you the link there. Thank you very much, Marcia. Good night, Unpluggers. No, good night, YouTubers. Stay tuned, you Unpluggers.